It's Friday, May 7th, and this is EDUC 3:30 Evening News. In recent events, historical fiction and nonfiction are at odds after some readers misinterpret their literary genres. We go to Wilma Walters for more information. Thank you, Leslie. Today marks another tragedy for avid historical fiction and nonfiction readers everywhere. Books such as Fever 1793 by Laurie Halls Anderson, Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Septis, and Stella by Starlight by Sharon M. Draper, to name a few, are historical fiction novels that some readers are miscategorizing as nonfiction, when in actuality, they are historical fiction novels. Nonfiction and historical fiction are in a tizzy today, trying to help sort out the confusion. Earlier, we interviewed nonfiction and historical fiction to get their opinions and solutions to the issue. Many readers just do not understand that nonfiction and historical fiction are two different genres. In my genre, nonfiction, the text is based in the actual rather than the imagined. Biographies, history, true adventures, science, sports, and memoirs are some popular topics that are written about in nonfiction texts. There are a lot of ways to evaluate nonfiction text. Always check for accuracy and authenticity. That facts and generalizations are present throughout the text. Illustrations are correctly depicted. They correctly depict the truth. The author needs to be qualified to write on the topic. The text is up to date. The text should include all significant facts. The text avoids stereotypes. Facts are used to support generalizations, and distinctions between facts and theories are made. These are some ways nonfiction can be evaluated. The thing I want readers to know is that nonfiction is the truth, while historical fiction contains fact and imagination. I like to consider nonfiction text a good friend of mine. They are a trusty resource for research about actual events, places, things, and so much more. I am not trying to mimic nonfiction, but bring it to life so my readers can experience the past. They can enter into historical conflicts and joys like those who lived before us did. I, historical fiction, focus on using realistic events and basing fictional stories around them. There are many ways to evaluate historical fiction texts. Does the text include a good story? Does the fictional part of the text blend well with historical happenings? Is the text accurate and authentic? Is there background information in the afterword or author's notes? Does the text reflect the values and norms of the culture dictated in the text? Does the text avoid contradiction or distortion of known events in history? Is the information about the period accurate throughout the text? Does the text reflect the values and the spirit of the time? Are issues of the time presented or acknowledged throughout the text? Does the dialogue convey the feeling of the period? Is the language of the narrative appropriate for the time? Does the text draw on figures of speech from the setting? Does the theme provide insight and understanding of today's problems as well as the past? These are a few ways historical fiction can be evaluated. I am sorry that so many misinterpret me for nonfiction, but I'm also so happy that I can open the world of social studies to my readers through literature. Nonfiction and historical fiction plan to continue promoting their separate genres and hope that more awareness will be brought forth for the importance of genre differentiation. I'm Wilma Walters. Back to you, Leslie. Thank you, Wilma. For many, today marks the close of Traditional Literature Awareness Week. We go to Frances Fraser for more. Thank you, Leslie. After a week of celebration, the family of traditional literature is ready to go back on the shelves. The traditional literature family consists of 5 major members: folktales, fables, epics and legendary heroes, myths and sacred stories, and creation myths. While all fall under the traditional literature genre, each one of these members celebrated their uniqueness over the past week. Hello, I am Folklore. I am made up of a variety of traditional narratives, mostly brief stories with simple plots and generally happy endings. I have literary patterns that can help you pick me out from my other family members. Cumulative tales are when a story increases in repetition of details as the story builds up to a quick climax. One of my favorite cumulative tales is Paul Galden's The Gingerbread Boy. Another literary pattern to help understand folklore is pourquoi tales. Pourquoi tales explain animal traits or human customs or characteristics. These tales most likely come from religious traditions. One of my favorite pourquoi stories is Pine and the Winter Sparrow by Alexis York Lamar. In it, she shares a Cherokee story of explaining why a pine tree turns green. Other literary patterns in folk tales are beast tales. These stories have animals which act and talk like human beings. A classic example of a beast tale is The Little Red Hen, my personal favorite. Another literary pattern seen in folk tales are wonder tales. These are tales about magic and the supernatural, oftentimes called fairy tales. These stories include, but are not limited to, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Finally, realistic tales are used as a literary pattern in folk tales. Johnny Appleseed is a realistic tale, and let me tell you why. Realistic tales are stories that could have happened. They could have happened. Like Rev Lindenberg's Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed was a real person, but now his story is so embedded in folklore culture, but he could have been a real person. I hope that now you have a better understanding and appreciation for folklore. Thank you, Folklore. I know we are all excited to read more about you. And now we know many literary patterns that we can identify as we read. Fable, would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself? Of course. Fables are brief, detailed tales where animals talk and sometimes elements speak. There are many well-known fables. For example, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or The Race Between the Tortoise and the Hare. While fables may seem to be short and simple stories, they're usually told to express abstract ideas and are highly complex. While fables are for everyone, sometimes children have a harder time reading into their deeper meanings. Very interesting fable. It makes me want to look back at some of those shorter fables I read through and find a deeper meaning. Epic and legendary heroes, would you like to tell us something about yourself? Epics are a long narrative or cycle of stories that are centered around the events of a single hero. They usually develop out of myths like the Iliad or the Odyssey. One familiar one that younger readers might know is Robin Hood or King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I think that epics and legendary heroes are some of the best traditional literature because they give readers a model of greatness through the ages. Thank you, epics and legendary heroes. Next up, we have myths and sacred stories. Myths are stories that are used to explain natural, historical, or social phenomenons. Some of these stories could be about how the world began, how nature works, or a system of values. Most myths focus on relationships among gods with humans or other spiritual beings. Myths have been told for hundreds of years to help people accept or fulfill their destiny and understand good from evil. Myths and sacred stories are so important because they have shaped the world that we live in today. Thank you, myths and sacred stories. Finally, we have creation myths. Creation myths are found in every culture. Nature myths are stories that explain seasonal changes, animal characteristics, constellations, and other earthly happenings. Greek mythology is another creation myth that were told to explain the happenings of the world in ancient Greece. There are many interesting myths from all around the world to study. Thank you, myths and sacred stories. Now that traditional literature has come to an end, post on your Instagram or other social media using the hashtag traditionallit is lit, and tell us your favorite traditional literature story, and we'll post our favorites on our website. I'm Frances Frazier. Leslie, back to you. Thank you, Frances. Now over to Janice Jenkins in our Discovery Corner for a little information on picture books. Thank you, Leslie. Good evening, everyone. Tuning in at home, I am Janice Jenkins, and this is the Discovery Corner. This week, we will be diving into the detailed world of picture books. Tonight, we will be learning about how picture books create meaning. Let's begin with an overview of picture books, shall we? Picture books are books in which images and ideas join to form a unique whole. In picture books, it is not only the author that tells the story with words, but the illustrator with pictures. Picture books can be wordless. An alphabet book, a counting book, a concept book, a graphic novel, or a picture storybook. The main topic we are going to look at today is how meaning is created in picture books. There are various elements of design that are important when developing illustrations for a picture book. Let's analyze these elements of design a little closer, shall we? Line and shape. Line and shape is in every illustration and is usually we forget that it's there, but it's there to create meaning in illustrations. Some illustrators might use brushy paint strokes to add dimension to animals to give them a fur-like texture, like Chris Brassica in A Ball for Daisy. Others might use sharp edges and corners to express a scene more clearly to the reader. Color. Color is another element of design used in illustrations. Color invokes emotional connections to readers. More lively scenes in a book are typically drawn with brighter colors, and other scenes, the more sad and lonely sections, are usually going to be more dim, grays, or blues. Colors will vary depending on the mood of the picture book and the part of the story being read. Value. Value is our next element of design to discover. Value is in a picture book is the amount of light and dark in a picture book. Space. Space is next. No, not outer space. The space in a picture book that exists on a two-dimensional plane. What the illustrator does with that space is up to them. They can fill it with colors, light or dark values, and or lines to create an illustration benefiting of the story. Perspective or point of view. Perspective or point of view is our next element of design to explore. Perspective or point of view adds a layer to the text, much like an author adds a different voice to the story. The illustrator can zoom in or out of an illustration to change the point of view and better show the reader what's going on in the story. Finally, composition. Composition combines all the elements of design to create a unified illustration that ties the book together. That's all we have time for this evening in our Discovery Corner. Check back next week when we dive into the world of biographies. I'm Janice Jenkins. Back to you, Leslie. Thank you, Janice. As always, you can stay up to date on all literary news by following our social media or checking out your local bookstore. That is the EDUC 330 news for this Friday. Thank you for watching. I'm Leslie Gerster, and have a great night.